good afternoon. Matt
Hello.
Loper. I am so pleased to have the chance to talk with you a little bit and sort of introduce you to the entire AYF community. You've been with us for a long time, and we haven't really had the chance to do a focus spotlight. And so today I'd love to just ask you a few questions and have you share with everyone some of the details about your history with the AYF and your thoughts on the world and place where we find ourselves today. And so maybe let's go back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about your history and how you first came to know of AYF and your involvement with us.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Well, I'm honored to be asked and excited to chat with you today and looking forward to it. So, yeah, I started in 2007 and I was an undergrad at Northwestern University. And probably the first time I ever heard of AYF, I didn't realize I was hearing about it, but it was in 2003 or so. And it was my second year in undergrad, and I guess that would have been 2004. And we were accepting applications for a program for Northwestern freshmen called the Freshman Urban Program, where we took incoming students to just check out Chicago and really understand the unique social aspects of that city, particularly the social service aspects. Chicago has this incredible rich legacy of social and community services and an amazing network of organizations that are supporting the really, really diverse communities that exist inside of Chicago. And so we brought incoming students and we were reviewing applications, and we accepted someone who wrote all about her time at camp and how powerful this thing in New Hampshire, this Mara Vista camp, was for her. And I probably barely registered to me until later on in undergrad when we were at this point friends, and she was explaining about how important her summer experiences were in the mountains of Ossipee up at New Hampshire and Mara Vista. And she encouraged me to apply to work at Mara Vista. And I had plans for the fall that involved just connecting with friends and starting out on a career and sort of life's next chapters after undergrad. But I needed something to do for the summer, so she encouraged that I check it out, and I did. And I was the last male staff hired at Mara Vista the summer of 2007. I think I was a little bit of a desperate hire because it was low staffing. It can be hard to get male staff sometimes. And I had some experience working with kids, but not quite in the same ways as some of my colleagues. But they took a chance on me, and I actually left Northwestern before graduation and started Four Trails staff training and was out and about on the trips and learning how to be a trip leader and guide in the wilderness and having some very new experiences, but quickly falling in love with everything AYF. And I flew back in the middle of all that to graduate, walk across the stage, cap and gown, yay, and then back at it, back to Mara Vista the next day. And that was the beginning of something pretty awesome for me. So I had an amazing summer. I don't think I realized you could live with such intention, that you could actively work to build community that just so meaningfully supports young people and helps kids figure out who they are, and all along helps staff figure out who they are and what their purpose is in this world. And I fell in love with it. I was amazed by the possibilities and the intention behind that community. And so I was lucky enough after session A, the first part of the summer, that they opened a spot in the internship. So Mara Vista runs this amazing year-round internship where I got to hop on and be a part of that team delivering school programs to thousands of kids that fall, winter, and spring. And then I just then I was hooked. I had already canceled all of my fall plans, any career plans, living stuff. I was like, nope, I got to stay at Mara Vista. This is so good. And luckily they let me stay at Mara Vista, so I did. And then that kind of just kept happening. I just was able to stay a part of the school programs at Mara Vista for a couple of years. And eventually I was directing that program and running the internship that was so powerful and positive for me. And I was really grateful for that chapter, and found a new connection with an organization called Kids for Peace Boston that runs a program at Mara Vista each summer and bring kids together from all around Jerusalem and Boston, and has an interfaith aspect of peace and community building that really spoke to me. And I was ready to just take a leap, try something new. And so I moved down to Boston and sort of formally stopped working with Mara Vista in an official capacity, but I was still up there helping programs, and I ended up coming up with Kids for Peace each summer. And so I felt pretty connected, but was just in a different chapter for a bit. And then after a few years of that, I ended up at Minnewanka, and I got to start that chapter there, working more closely with you, Liz, and the operations work at that site, and really understanding AYF from a Minnewanka perspective. Like, it was a really cool chapter for me. I feel like my Mara Vista time in program was amazing, and then equally so at Minnewanka. It was great to really see the background side of things, just all the pieces that make the communities we build with young people happen. I loved getting to just get into the nitty gritty of all of that stuff too. It was fun to get to know Minnewanka. And then now I have the terribly wonderful dilemma of loving both Minnewanka and Mara Vista just so dearly. And it's not really a dilemma though, which is nice. But
so it sounds like you've really had time at both sites, that, beginning at Mara Vista and having that initial experience there, and then moving out to Minnewanka to fill such an important role. I mean, that was coming to be the operations director at just a time when we really needed that. I know you brought in so much knowledge and kind of experience of how AYF works. And so how has that translated into the role that you have now? I know there's been some sort of reorganization and you have a different type of role. Explain sort of how some of that has unfolded for AYF and for you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for saying. That coming into Minnewanka was such a gift for me. So I really enjoyed it. And then now this chapter has been incredible, sort of beyond my wildest dreams in a lot of ways. It's been, when we started thinking about the landscape ahead and where the AYF is going, and I sort of didn't know where I might fit and how to make sense of what I might be able, how to share my gifts with the organization, right, in our community. And was just so honored to be asked to consider the program director role, and was astounded that then we got to start thinking about things from a division, right? And so I got to be a part and actively connected to all that's happening at Mara Vista and all that's happening at Minnewanka and beyond. And it's been a really amazing year and a half so far in this new role, where we are, you and I in particular, right? We get to look out to the landscape ahead and think where are we going and what new adventures lie on our horizon. And I've really appreciated the chance to just affirm and celebrate the incredible things happening at Mara Vista and Minnewanka, and just help hold those things up. We have this amazing team of directors there, and to just help support those efforts. And give them enough support and room to do what they do really well, and give us enough room then to go look beyond and think about the next chapter for AYF and the next time when we sort of begin to think, okay, what now? We're not a status quo organization, are we? Right? Like, we're not very good at or comfortable with staying still. So I've been honored to be able to be one of the ones kind of putting the periscope up, right? And just like looking out at the horizon and saying, okay, there's some really important potential out there that we can capture as an organization. This mission matters to millions of young people who don't even know about it yet. So where do we go from here?
Exactly. I mean, that's been such an exciting moment to be able to sort of think strategically with you. And I know sort of with Anna Kay's leadership, coming together as a leadership team of AYF directors, being tasked with not just the day-to-day of how is life happening at the sites and trying to support that, but also trying to then look ahead and say, for an organization that's coming up on its 100th anniversary in 2025, AYF has been here a long time, and the mission has constantly been in flux. And so, I see you looking at that and thinking about that from a programmatic angle as well. Is there anything that you sort of reflect on in terms of the changes that you see happening for AYF programs? I mean, in what ways are we sort of coming into the future or making updates to the methods that we're using and our ways of working with young people?
Cool question, right? Like, I love that. Do we have like a couple hours? It's cool. I mean, I've so appreciated the framework that we've developed and been handed on this idea of how do we increase our reach and relevance, right? Like, this is a moment to understand reach and relevance. And for me, what that sort of translates into is, I think that we're an organization that claims to serve the youth of America, right? And we get to have this amazing, beautiful title and mission. And so that means we get to stay young, we get to stay driven by the young people in our communities. Our relevance we should be relevant. And I think we are, right? I think what we're doing is really important, and people are showing up to have these conversations in our camps. And I think the mission I get charged with inside of that now is to continue that relevance, to say, young people are inheriting a world right now that is completely different than the world I inherited. And I think at this moment right now, in the midst of COVID-19, we're looking at so many unknowns, right? I mean, I can't even fathom being a young person sort of with that sense of being at the start of your life and just looking out ahead of all that the landscape holds, and so much uncertainty. And I think AYF needs to be a piece of that. We have an incredible community, a rich history and support and resources and ability to help young people make sense of this, right? And because we know they have the answers, right? I just so cherish that our mission is built on the idea that we're asset-based, that, that kids look inside of themselves and that there are the gifts, there are the answers they need. So we're really just helping them pause to find those answers within. And I think that that's one of the most relevant things any of us could be doing right now. It's why the mission applies no matter what your age is, right? We say youth, but you get to be a founder of any age, because these are big questions we are all facing right now. And certainly it's my hope that we look at the questions and really engage with them to whatever extent we can, rather than avoid them.
Mm-hmm. I see that sort of bouncing off the current moment and asking the questions about how we can do this best in this time. And it feels like you're really pointing to so much about the program that works so well, and that if we keep it focused on youth, we know that we'll be meeting the needs of young people for years to come. So we want to just continue that conversation and that, asking the questions, how do we do this best? And I see you sort of driving that forward in terms of your own thinking. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's cool to be doing this sort of work that keeps you up at night, because your brain is just like going and going and going. That's how I feel, right? Of just like, how, let's look at this, let's figure out. And this moment is so ripe with potential. I mean, I so acknowledge and see that there's so much pain and suffering in the world too. And I think it's the belief that kids looking within themselves, young people understanding that they have gifts and that they get to tell the story of how their life is written is part of the answer. I mean, that is such beautiful work. I'm so grateful to be a part of that.
Right. And especially now, I mean, I think this spring, we've never lived this way before. And have you had any kind of takeaways of quarantine, any moments of realization, or has it shaped your thinking at all about your own life or your kind of calling to do this work?
Yeah, a cool question. I mean, it's cliche, but it's certainly one of them, is just how much I miss camp. One of my takeaways right now. My May is usually it's a tough month. Like, I'll share this kind of openly with people. When I've spent every summer at Mara Vista or Minnewanka for my adult life, and I find every May there's a piece of me that just is like dragging, kicking and screaming, because you give up a lot of freedom to do what we do. You give up your nights and your weekends, and people enjoy the summers. And I've never really had like a summer, I've had the best summers, but never like a summer in the way like you sort of see the culture around you have. And so there's a piece of me that's sort of like, no, like I'm not ready. I don't need to be doing this much work. I'm tired. And there's a lot to do to get ready still for camp in May. And I've been thinking about how often in May, like I don't really fight it, but we all have those warring voices in us. And in May, there's a piece of me that's always kind of bargaining with myself and saying like, what are those parts, those relationships in life that are going to be a little bit less when I'm focused on camp, or those experiences going out to restaurants or movies that are just, they're just not going to be as much of that during the summer. What are those pieces that I want to try and hold on to in an intentional way? And what am I just going to say? It's okay. I look forward to seeing that again in September or October, whenever we sort of come up for air again. And this year I've really enjoyed thinking like, what are the really beautiful, intentional pieces of camp that I'm going to hold on to because we don't get to be together in person for it this year? And what are the aspects of that community, that experience that I'm going to work to bring into my life? And it's helped me. It's deepened an already deep appreciation of the work we get to do in the summer. It's demanding, but it's so rich. I mean, I so love that when we're in these communities, it's just easier to live in sort of an authentic way. It's easier to be in alignment with my own values. It's easier to sort of risk being a bolder, better version of myself. It's easier to find new versions of my best self. There's just things about life in camp that are really sacred to me. And so I'm sad. There's no concert. There's no restaurant that I love that much that I wish we were not having camp so I could go to, right? So it's been a time of just trying to think, okay, so what does that mean for me right now? How do I get the same beautiful aspects of the summer experience into this life in the way it looks this year? And I don't have a lot of those answers yet, but
I can relate to that, to the flip side of after so many years of spending the entire summer at camp, to be thinking about what could I bring from that experience back to the summer that I'm going to have. I mean, certainly trying to be intentional about getting outside and going on hikes and, the pieces I think that we take for granted about being in the camp setting, we're going to have to work hard to create that time and create the outdoor space and the breathing room and is it even possible to sit with yourself and reflect at nighttime for a few minutes? Or, I was out for a walk this morning thinking, I'm going to miss morning stretch. I'm going to really, really do my own walk around. And I think I'll play a song outside and sit and stare off into the space because I just miss those rhythms. You just miss the rhythms of the things that we've done. But I think, as you're saying, you can set your goals and kind of bring some of those into life.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. It's like sometimes the incapacitating nature of choice, right? Where when I have some freedoms in this kind of life right now to choose how to use my day in whatever way, it's just incapacitating in a way. It's really nice to just know when that bell rings, this is what my day is going to look like. And I just march on off to the flag and be with community. And there it is. There's the start of the day and I let it unfold. And there's just that beautiful structure that helps me be me. So I so love that you're finding ways to do that still. I gotta follow your lead and get my morning stretch on, or my call the community, my flag raising time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Is there anything else that you feel like the world needs to know about Matt Loper as we are getting to know a little bit about you? And you've had such a great journey through AYF and through, I think, touching so many different pieces of this organization and kind of shaping it. And we're lucky to have had you in so many roles. But anything else that the people need to know, a secret aspect of Matt Loper? This is what they, if you watch this far into the video, now you get to really be revealed. Some sort of detail. Awesome. What do you want to share with the people?
Yeah. Well, on a very surface fun level, I love physics and astrophysics and science. That's something I never talk about in this setting. It's just like, I love the the universe and the big questions and trying to understand what it's all about. There was a time in undergrad when I was studying physics and religion and theater design, lighting design, and I called it my light trilogy, where I was just all these different ways of thinking about light. It was really called to, and that's sort of been the theme of my life ever since. So I think I found a lot of light inside of the AYF, and just like a moth, I just keep coming back, you know. And it's one of the things I love about our communities is that we attract people who similarly want to just look at the big stuff and make sense of these gifts of living and purpose and who are we and why are we. And so, yeah, that comes to mind. But there's a side of it that's very sciencey. Yeah, if I were not a
yeah,
sparks of light.
Sparks of Light for our Sparks of Light newsletter. Why not?
I like it. Yeah. That, and I love dancing. I appreciate, no shade given, but Minnewanka does a little bit more dancing than Mara Vista. So that was definitely one of my highlights of moving over to the western part of the AYF is got to get some more dancing going at Mara Vista. So we'll get there.
I think that might be the mission cross-pollination is can we get the flash mob to make it back east? And I think I've heard there's excitement about that. So on we go. We have a whole germination period here for the flash mob to spread. So
yeah, cool. I hope it does. That's our new job, flash mob coordinators. Intra-campus flash mob.
Exactly. It's definitely a way to bring the light. So thank you. Well, I feel really grateful for you taking this time with me today and just sharing a little bit more about your bio and your story. And I love for people to get to know you and just to know what a gift you are to all of us and to AYF to have you on the team. It's my pleasure being on the leadership team with you and just being able to kind of cross-pollinate and share ideas and see things happen. We are really lucky to be able to do this work.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? I feel the same way. Thank you for the chance to talk today, and I'm really grateful to be on the team with you, Liz. So this has been great. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.